All right, so get this. We are diving deep today into a spot that is literally a dream for anyone who loves luxury real estate, a little bit of Hollywood magic, and maybe even a ghost story or two.
Sounds interesting.
We are going to the Buckner Mansion in New Orleans.
Oh, you're in for a treat with this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this isn't just like your average mansion. It's a stunning example of Greek Revival architecture, and it just oozes Southern charm.
Ooh, okay. I like it.
Plus, it was featured in American Horror Story. So for all you fans of that show out there, you're about to get a behind-the-scenes peek at a pretty iconic location.
Okay, so set the scene for us here. What are we looking at with this mansion?
Okay, picture this. A gorgeous three-story mansion with those classic wraparound balconies.
Oh, yeah, I love those.
Held up by these, grand white Ionic columns. Very classic Greek Revival, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I think of that style, that's what comes to mind.
Exactly. And the Ionic columns are a signature element of that style. They give the mansion this sense of grandeur and timelessness. Think back to ancient Greek temples. That's the kind of aesthetic they were going for. And it's not just about the columns. The whole design emphasizes symmetry and balance,
Okay, yeah.
which you really see in the Buckner Mansion's facade.
I love how you're bringing in all that historical context. So we've got this amazing exterior, but what about the inside? I mean, does it live up to all the hype?
Oh, absolutely. Step inside and you're greeted by this breathtaking entrance hall with a sweeping mahogany staircase, the kind that just begs for a dramatic entrance.
Oh, stop. You're making me want to book a flight to New Orleans right now.
And above it all, hanging there, this massive, multi-tiered chandelier that just screams Southern opulence.
Okay, wait. Is that what they mean by Southern opulence, all the chandeliers and grand staircases?
Mm.
Because it sounds amazing.
It's definitely part of it. You have to remember that in the antebellum South, especially in a city like New Orleans, wealth and status were often displayed through these lavish interiors. Think intricate moldings, rich fabrics, ornate furniture, all designed to create this feeling of luxury and refinement.
So the Buckner Mansion is like a time capsule of that era.
In a way, yeah. And each room has its own distinct character. You've got the formal parlor, which is like stepping back in time with its Victorian elegance, complete with tall windows draped in heavy curtains, floral wallpaper, and a white marble fireplace.
Ah, the classic parlor, right. Can't you just imagine all the important conversations and maybe even a little bit of gossip happening in that room?
Absolutely. You can practically hear the rustle of silk dresses and the clinking of teacups. And then you have the ballrooms, yes, multiple ballrooms, which are these vast spaces with gleaming hardwood floors and, you guessed it, more chandeliers.
Oh, of course.
It gives you a glimpse into the kind of lavish social life that must have happened within those walls.
I can picture it now. A grand ball with everyone dressed to the nines waltzing under those sparkling chandeliers. It sounds like something straight out of a movie.
And speaking of movies, we can't forget about the dining room.
Ooh, okay, tell me about it.
This room is just a masterpiece of color and craftsmanship. With deep green walls, antique cabinetry, and an elegant fireplace, you can imagine the kinds of conversations and power dynamics that unfolded over dinner in a room like this.
Ooh, that deep green is so rich and dramatic. Definitely makes a statement. But wait, I'm picturing a big formal dining room, and suddenly I'm wondering, what about the kitchen? In a historic mansion like this, is the kitchen just as grand?
You might be surprised to hear that the kitchen is actually light and airy. It blends traditional design elements with modern appliances, a sign that this mansion has been lovingly updated for modern living while still respecting its history.
Okay, that's actually a really cool detail. Shows you can have the best of both worlds, historic charm and modern convenience. It's a good reminder that even these grand historic homes can be adapted for today's lifestyles.
Exactly. And the bedrooms follow a similar theme. You've got the primary bedroom, which exudes timeless elegance with high ceilings, a stunning chandelier, and vintage furniture very much in keeping with the rest of the house.
So luxurious, but still rooted in the history of the home. I'm liking the consistency here. But what about the guest rooms? Are they just as lavish?
They are, but each in their own way. One guest room, for example, is described as cozy and elegant, with warm mustard yellow walls, twin antique beds, and a bay window overlooking the gardens. You can tell a lot of thought went into the design of every space in this house, making sure each room had its own personality and charm.
And that's what makes it so much more interesting than just a generic luxury mansion, right? Feels like a home with history, with stories woven into every room. But speaking of stories, we can't forget that the Buckner Mansion has another claim to fame, right?
You're talking about American Horror Story, Coven, of course. And it's not hard to see why this mansion was chosen as Miss Robichaux's academy for the show.
I mean, it practically screams witchy vibes, right?
Hmm.
That old world grandeur, a touch of mystery, and an atmosphere that's both beautiful and a little bit eerie. It's perfect.
Exactly. And the producers of American Horror Story are known for choosing locations that enhance the story they're telling. But in the case of the Buckner Mansion, it's almost like it becomes another character in the show, adding to the atmosphere and the suspense.
Ooh, that's a great point. It's not just a backdrop, it's part of the storytelling. But you know what else adds to the mystery and the suspense? The fact that the Buckner Mansion is also said to be haunted.
Ah, yes. And this is where things get really interesting, especially for those of you who love a good ghost story.
I'm here for it.
New Orleans is a city steeped in the paranormal,
Right.
and the Buckner Mansion is no exception. It's steeped in local lore and attracts ghost hunters from all over.
Okay, so we've got this amazing mansion that's both beautiful and a little bit spooky.
Right.
But what kind of ghost stories are we talking about here? Is there like a specific ghost that people claim to have encountered?
There is. And her name is Miss Josephine.
Ooh, Miss Josephine. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about her.
Well, she's believed to be the spirit of a woman who was enslaved by the Buckner family and continued to reside at the mansion after the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
Local lore has it that she developed a deep connection to the home, becoming a sort of caretaker figure even after her passing.
Wow, so her story is directly tied to a significant period in American history. It adds another layer of complexity to the mansion story. But are there actual reports of paranormal activity linked to Miss Josephine?
Oh, there are. People have reported hearing soft footsteps, almost like someone is quietly walking through the rooms. And there have been accounts of catching a whiff of lemon peel, which was said to be Miss Josephine's favorite scent.
It's those little details that really make a ghost story come to life, or should I say afterlife. But you know what's really fascinating? To think about how these real-life ghost stories must have influenced the Coven production team.
Absolutely. Choosing this location with its history and chilling tales speaks volumes about their desire to create an authentically eerie atmosphere. They were clearly inspired by stories like Miss Josephine's.
And they even incorporated those haunting elements into key scenes in Coven, right? I remember those shadowed corners and dimly lit hallways. It all added to the show's mystical appeal.
It's almost as if they blurred the lines between fiction and reality by mirroring the real-life ambiance of Buckner Mansion. You're watching the show and you can't help but think, could this actually be happening?
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so captivating. We're exploring a place that's visually stunning, historically significant, and shrouded in these intriguing paranormal tales, like a perfect storm of everything that makes a place truly unforgettable.
And it really makes you wonder, right? How much of that eerie atmosphere on the show was intentional design and how much was just the mansion lending its own spooky vibes to the production?
Yeah, like it was a cast member or something.
Right.
It's honestly, it's what makes it so cool, though. Thinking about the history, the architecture, the ghost stories, and then seeing how it all comes together in American Horror Story. It's like this perfect blend of reality and fiction.
And that blend really speaks to what makes the Buckner Mansion so special, you know? For fans of historical properties, you've got this tangible link to the past, to the antebellum South and the legacy of New Orleans.
Yeah.
You can practically feel the echoes of the people who lived and worked there.
It's like stepping into a history book, but
Yeah.
like way more exciting. You can actually walk those halls, touch those banisters, and imagine what life was like back then. It's not just reading about it, it's like experiencing it.
Exactly. And for those interested in architecture, the Buckner Mansion is a prime example of how a historic building can be both preserved and adapted for modern life. The way they've maintained those original features while still updating it for functionality is really impressive.
That's something I think a lot of people who love old houses can appreciate.
Yeah.
It's finding that balance, right?
Mm.
Between honoring the past and making it work for the present. And then, of course, you have the whole American Horror Story connection, which adds like a whole other dimension to the experience.
Oh, absolutely. For fans of the show, being able to visit the actual filming location for Miss Robichaux's Academy is like stepping into that fictional world.
Yep.
They can see those iconic rooms, those hallways, and maybe even feel a little shiver thinking about the scenes that played out there.
And let's be real, for fans of haunted properties, the Buckner Mansion doesn't disappoint. I mean, we're talking about a place with its own resident ghost, Miss Josephine. It's like something straight out of a ghost hunting show.
And the fact that her story is so intertwined with the history of the house and of New Orleans itself makes it even more fascinating. It's a reminder that these places hold the stories of real people, both the living and the departed.
And those stories can be both beautiful and haunting, which is what makes the Buckner Mansion so captivating. It's a place where history, architecture, and the paranormal all converge to create an experience unlike any other.
It's a place that sparks the imagination, that makes you think about the past, the present, and maybe even what lies beyond.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so much more than just a beautiful building. It's a portal to another time, another realm.
And that's the beauty of places like the Buckner Mansion. They invite you to explore, to discover, and to connect with something bigger than yourself. Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's not every day you come across a place that ticks so many boxes.
Yeah.
Historical significance, architectural beauty, Hollywood fame, and a good dose of spooky intrigue.
And it's all wrapped up in that, like, undeniable Southern charm, you know? You can't help but be swept away by the romance of it all.
Exactly. So for you, our listener, if you ever find yourself in New Orleans and you have even a passing interest in any of this stuff, the Buckner Mansion should be at the top of your list. Imagine standing in that grand entrance hall, running your hand along that mahogany banister, knowing that you're walking in the footsteps of history.
And maybe even feeling a chill down your spine as you think about Miss Josephine and the other spirits who might still call that mansion home.
So, okay, I have to ask, knowing everything we've talked about, the architecture, the history, the American Horror Story connection, and of course, Miss Josephine, would you spend a night in the Buckner Mansion?
Oh, that is a tough one. It would definitely be an unforgettable experience, that's for sure. I'd love to wander those hallways at night, maybe even try to catch a glimpse of Miss Josephine myself, but I think I need a good nightlight and maybe a few extra blankets just in case those chills weren't just from the AC.
Totally, totally. It's one thing to admire it from afar, but actually being there, knowing all the stories those walls hold, that's like a whole other level of intrigue. So for our listeners who are feeling brave, maybe even a little bit adventurous, go ahead and add the Buckner Mansion to your travel bucket list. And for those who prefer to admire from the comfort of their own homes, there's always American Horror Story, Coven to give you a taste of its magic.
And no matter how you choose to experience it, the Buckner Mansion is a reminder that sometimes the most captivating places are the ones where history, beauty, and a touch of the supernatural all come together.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the mysteries of the Buckner Mansion. Until next time, happy exploring.